Are you being held to ransom by the economy? One of the toughest things about working in today's environment as a business owner is that the economy is just changing radically all the time. And sometimes things like raising interest rates or unemployment being at an all time low is working against us as a business owner. And it feels like the tail's wagging the dog. In this awesome presentation, we've got three keynotes, and we're going to be talking about are you being are you being held to ransom by the economy, or can you take control back? So the three presentations are going to talk about number one, using technology, not just Zoom to make Zoom calls, but actually using technology to improve your customers' experience and to actually eradicate some of the costs of running your business in today's environment. The second presenter is going to be talking about outsourcing, but once again, not the traditional, oh, we're going to have someone in the Philippines type outsourcing, but how do you choose which parts of your business to outsource? How do you find the right people to do those tasks? And how do you make sure that they're actually adding value to your organization? And the last and final piece, we're going to be talking about planning cycles. In our business, we're all about business planning. And what we found over the past few years is that the way the economy is shifting right now, we used to run 90-day plans and we found that that was sufficient because it's better than 12-month, but now we're running 6-week planning cycles. So I'm going to talk about the methodology we use to run 6-week planning cycles. I'm going to show you some of the key elements that you need to actually identify within your own business so that you can work out what to focus on. So enjoy the presentations. I'm going to hand over to the first keynote right now, and let's learn how you can take control back of your business and stop being hijacked by the economy.
So today I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges we're seeing in the economy. Are you being held to ransom by the economy? This is really the a question that we've been talking about. So I'm going to go through, and I'm really going to be starting to talk about how we can leapfrog some of these roadblocks using innovative tech. So let's jump into it. So, what do I mean by that? Well, look, what we're going to be talking about is how we can use this technology and innovative tech to be able to change our path. We're going to be facing these roadblocks, and we want to leap over those. So, before we jump into that, who's Andy Prosser? Who am I? Well, I've been in the game for about 30 years. I've been working in the tech industry. I founded a company called Executive Technologists. And fun fact, I used to, being a mining engineer, so I used to dig holes and blow stuff up, right? But now I describe myself as a Microsoft 365 coach. Um, and this is kind of the area that I focus on. It's really about around Microsoft 365 as a platform and a system that you can use to do lots of cool things with. It's one of those things that we find it very, very powerful, and it allows you to leapfrog those economic roadblocks if used well. But I'm also this guy, right? And what I mean by this guy, what I mean by this guy is, the no BS tech translator. And I've been doing a lot of presentations about that. The goal here is really to break things down for people who aren't techies and make it more accessible. And to give you an example, and this is something that might stick in your mind the next time you're about to click send on an email. And the thing is with email is it's pretty much the same as walking out your front door naked. Anyone who chooses to look knows all about your junk, right? So next time, before you click send, just think about that because it's not secure, it's not encrypted, and you need to be careful about sending that information this way, right? But we do it all the time. So just remember that little trick. Next thing is, executive technologists, what are we about? Well, we're a Microsoft 365 coaching and advisory business. We also provide managed services for our clients. But I've been working in the game, as said, for about 30 years. The focus of what we do is really about this enterprise style, this enterprise foundations, but delivering it on a small business budget. That's the important thing. So you get all the thinking, all the initiatives, and all the ideas that the big corporates, manage every single day or deal with every single day, and are used to, but now it's available for everyone. So who we worked with? Well, look, there's going to be lots and lots of people that you can see on here. There'll be some logos that you recognize, other ones that you don't. Um, some of our current climates, some of previous organizations we've worked with. So let's go back to the question at hand. Are you being held to ransom by the economy? It really is a good question. But what can we do about it? And there's lots of things we can do, but the first thing we need to do is to get creative. We need to sort of think outside the box, as they say, and look at different opportunities and ways of solving these problems. Because let's face it, anytime you got a roadblock in front of you, that's an opportunity to grow, to explore, to try something different. It's only when we hit these immovable objects that we look for ways around. And that's what we're facing in the economy at the moment. So, how are we going to leapfrog these economic roadblocks with innovative tech? Well, first off, let's talk about what it means. It means using technology in unique and different ways. You've probably heard of Amazon or even Domino's trying to use drones and other technology to be able to deliver their products. And these are sort of more advanced views of that, but there's so many different things about that. Take Uber, for example. Everyone thinks Uber is a tech company and it was tech that's managed them, of why they became who they are. No, the difference with Uber is what they did is they looked at a problem, and using technology that we had available at the time when they started to form, we used those insights, we used that technology to create a unique product. We changed the transaction and the way things are transacted with your with that whole experience of getting a ride from A to B. And we changed that experience from what we used to have from the old taxi industry. But here's the thing we need to remember. It's not something we can avoid anymore. We live in a connected world. Everything is connected. You've lived through COVID. You know that. You know the experience, and just being on Zoom calls and all this, we've got teams spread all around the world with virtual assistants and such like, and we work with people globally. So tech is no longer optional. It's part of the very fabric of your business. So you need to learn to understand how to unlock its potential. But there's a problem. You might not be good at tech, and that's okay. That is completely okay. Once you acknowledge that and saying, I'm not good at tech, you look for opportunities of how to overcome that. But the first thing you need to be aware of tech is that you need to have your foundations right. There's nothing worse than trying to focus on the building your penthouse to your business when the concrete of the basement has yet to cure. Skyhooks don't work quite as well as you think they do. There's a lot of things you need to build in place to ensure that your building, your business, is structurally sound to take on all these new things. The same with technology. You want to go really advanced. If your basic stuff isn't working, it's just going to fail. And to do that, what we can do is I've put together a really quick little quiz that you can run through, and it's going to ask you a few questions, which hopefully will get you thinking about some of those foundational elements that you need to work on, just to ensure that it's doing what it is that you need to do, right? So once you've got these foundations, then we can start that whole foundation stuff. But here's a little tip. There's only two core platforms that really matter. You're either Team Google or Team Microsoft. And I'm talking about in terms of your emails, your file storage and structures and systems and where you store all that sort of stuff. Pick one. And it doesn't matter which one, right? But pick one of those two platforms. There are others out there, and you can play with those ones, and that's cool. But these are the two game-changing, industry-leading platforms that everyone is using. And then build your business around that platform. If you pick Google, pick solutions that play nice with Google. If you pick Microsoft, pick solutions that play nice with Microsoft. It's that simple. And that's where you build your foundations from. Now that we've got that bit done, the next thing we want to do is start designing. How do all these things come together? What are all of the different elements you need? Where are the gaps? What systems do you need to bolt on or add? And here's the next thing. When you're starting designing, we need to think about where the innovation is going to be, what innovative tech you're going to have. And the simple thing is when you're thinking about this, think about these three key areas. Is this piece of technology going to help reduce my cost? Is it going to help improve experiences? Or is it going to open new markets for us? If it doesn't do one of those three things, then chances are it's a foundational element. We have a different conversation. But it should be supporting your business in a different way. This is about the front end, innovative stuff that is going to change your business and the experience of your customers, your partners, and your employees. This is where the innovation in the innovative tech is. So, reducing cost. Really, we should be looking at how we're going to reduce human interaction or seeking ways to consolidate systems. There's a thing about having too many systems that every system you add to your business is increasing your risk of a cyber incident or a loss of data or any other thing by orders of magnitude, right? Every additional system is increasing risk. Increase risk, you're increasing cost, you're increasing complexity, so we want to try to consolidate, but also look at trying to automate things as much as possible. The next one is about improving experiences. And a lot of people, when you think about improving experiences, the first thing you focus on, how can I make a better customer experience? But there's two other cohorts of people that we need to talk about. Your employees, because your employees are going to be the fastest people and the first people to tell you how bad your systems are to your clients. And the second one are your partners. If you're trying to work with partners, how are you making it easier for them to interact with you? Because then you become that prime partner. They'll go, you know what? David is so easy to work with. I'm just going to work with him all the time. There's a couple of Davids here, so pick one. So I'm going to prefer working with that David versus someone else, right? And about opening markets, this is what Uber did, and this is what Amazon did. Create something unique that others need to reverse engineer. It took 18 months before anyone could catch up with Uber, right? So they had 18 months out in the blue ocean doing their own stuff while everyone is going, wow, this is amazing. The experience of getting a ride is so much better than faffing about with taxi, waiting, blocking traffic whilst the ATM machine or the FPOS terminal didn't work. And yeah, it was just annoying. So here's the big thing. IT does not have to change the world, but it does need to make an improvement. But here's the thing, when we all know about this one, sometimes it does. Anyone heard of this thing? Yeah, everyone's heard of this thing and everyone's playing with it. There's a thing about AI and stuff, and it's been around since the computing age started. But now it's just accessible to everyone, and now looking at accelerating what's going on with that. And this is what it's done. How many people have been talking about how ChatGPT and the AI world feels like darn magic? And when you get it right, that's what it feels like. One of the first times that I managed to fling a piece of music or a video to say a Google, the little Google sticks you stick in your TV, and suddenly it's you can just watch a YouTube video here and you just go, and it's up on the screen. Apple doing the same thing. All of that feels like magic, but that takes a lot of energy to get there. And the trick with all of this is that it's going to, it's how others are going to implement this. So ChatGPT, and I know there's a lot of you that are playing with this and learning how to use that technology, but look at the likes of Microsoft, look at Apple, look at Google, look at other innovators that are yet to be named, how they're integrating this into everyday life. This is where the real changes are. So you don't have to become an expert on this stuff. You just need to watch where everything's going. So here's an example of what Microsoft's doing. So we use Microsoft Teams for our webinars and such like, which is like Zoom. But when you've got those Teams meetings going, they're now bringing in a new piece of technology that when you record that, at the end of the session, a couple of things can happen. Number one, anytime your name was mentioned, it's going to put a time marker on there. And this is for everyone that's in that room. It's going to put a time marker on there. So that thing that you got dobbed in for, you can go back in time and find exactly where your name was mentioned. So a 1 hour session, you can quickly get back. The other thing AI is going to do is it's going to pull out the context of the meeting and write your meeting notes for you. That's powerful stuff. There's other things around about how to do automations and stuff. You can just type in free text what you would like to automate, and the system will build the flow for you. So it's looking at and leveraging those sorts of things. It's how it's going to be used that's going to change the world, not the technology itself. Hang on, I've got a double slide in here. So now here's the thing. You do not need groundbreaking tech. This is the point I'm trying to make. AI and all that sort of stuff is fantastic. I'm talking about foundations. Anyone who's playing with AI and trying to build this into your business you're potentially risking building that penthouse. So just be mindful of that. What you do need is remember is that great tech can bring your ideas to life. The most important thing and most powerful is every face that I'm seeing on my screen here. Your ideas, your innovations, etc. They're more powerful than the technology. You just need to look at how that technology can be used. And those ideas will literally help you leapfrog any economic roadblock. So have a look at the technologies you've got now. Have a look at the systems you use now. And the reason that's where we start is because what we want to look at is what I call the 1,000 paper cuts. Don't look at the big picture stuff. Look around, look at what you do every single day. Those micro tasks that take a second, a couple of moments to do. The saving that file from the email and putting it into a file store. Look at automating that. Look at solving that problem. Look at simplifying that problem. So each one of those, a paper cut doesn't hurt. It's a little bit of blood, but it doesn't hurt. But 1,000 of them make a big impact. If you can get rid of those 1,000 little paper cuts, so you're looking at this technology, innovate around those, solve those problems, and then you're solving that one annoyance, and that's that compounding effect. One a day. Pick on one little problem that pisses you off every single day that you do every day and you don't think about it. Because there's this challenge, this thing called context switching. Every time you switch from one task to another task, you lose time, you lose flow, you lose focus. So get rid of those and get your focus back. Buy your time back. Help your team buy that back. Why is this? So they're going to save you time, reduce friction, and create those opportunities. This is what your innovations are going to do. And when we do that, we come back to what innovative tech is going to do for us. It's going to reduce those costs, improve the experience, and open up these new markets. But you do that by the 1,000 paper cuts. Don't think big picture. Start on the little ones. Solve those ones. I think I'm doing good on time. Wow, that's unusual for me. So technology is not alone is not enough. You need to have all this technology, and if you've gone through and done those little check, you would have seen that there was a couple little questions in there. So there would have been questions around about how many systems you've got, right? If you've got lots of systems, that's causing lots of context switches. That's costing you time, costing you effort. If you can connect those and innovate those and simplify those, we're going to be much, you're going to be much more efficient. So I'm pretty much done. Who's excited? Anyone got lots of questions, etc.? I hope that's helped in that you were all thinking I'm going to come up with this new technology that's going to be you. What I'm saying here is that you've already got it in your business. What you're lacking is connecting your ideas with the technology you have. Perhaps you might have to up the what do you call it, the level that you're paying. Maybe you have to get rid of some of your systems and consolidate, right? So here's all those opportunities that's going to save you that time, save you that money, etc.
Hey, Andy, I've got a question.
Go for it.
The way you've talked about this, you've not talked about tech at all. You've talked about making things more efficient.
Yes.
And I think, is it true that most customers expect their suppliers to be faster, 24/7 access and answer questions without having to wait for a return phone call? Is that sort of prevalent in the market?
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, there's still a lot of people that will send you an email and 5 seconds after hit send, they'll call you to say, "Do you get my email?" expecting a response.
Yeah.
We're now expecting to jump onto a website and have access to chatbots and all the tools and everything that we need there to be able to do those problems, to solve those problems. So yeah, people are expecting faster response. The millennials coming through don't want to interact with a person. They would rather talk to a machine than a person. So there's virtual chatbots that you can go and put together in the Microsoft ecosystem. There's virtual agents, virtual power agents that you can go and program, and they're bringing in the AI stuff so you can start having conversations with a machine. I had someone call me whilst I was in the car, and they'd put in an overlaid audio and asked me a bunch of questions, and it took me until halfway through that conversation to realize I was talking to a machine. Over the phone, this was happening. The other ones which actually annoy me, when you call into a bank or one of the big companies and they got that IVR, the interactive voice response unit, where you're supposed to mash numbers, and they ask you, "Tell us how we can help." That always stumps me because I now need to talk. Wasn't expecting to talk. I was expecting to mash numbers, and you to give me a choice because I don't know what's available on the menu. Yeah. Right. So you've got to think about the flow. You've got to think about the experience. This is why I talk about experiences. How you can improve those experiences and build it up. 1,000 paper cuts. Start moving on the little stuff. I talk about with my clients workflow. If you're trying to build an automated workflow automation and you try to build something that has 1,000 steps on it, guarantee you'll fail. Guarantee it will fail. It will cost you $1 million and you'll get nowhere. Right? Break it down into steps. If this, then that. If this, then that. Do lots and lots of those and string them together. That's how AI basically works. It's just very complicated if statements and such like. Any other questions?
Question, Andy. Well, more of a discussion point, I guess, but I think the ChatGPT stuff for me is still in that sort of hype mode.
Absolutely.
And oh, look at this. It can pass a medical exam. Oh, look at this. It can become a lawyer. But I've seen this before where when Google sort of became on handheld devices, but it didn't make dumb people clever, right? It just gave them access to facts. And I think the same with ChatGPT. I think that, people that are relying on it to, to demonstrate their expertise are going to get found out. I reckon that it's going to be sort of like a fake Louis Vuitton handbag, and discerning buyers will be able to actually pick up that, it's a cheap fake.
Yeah.
And that's my view on it. So I'm not getting sort of sucked in there yet. I'm sort of, as you probably know, Andy, I'm sort of quite some way back behind the leading edge when it comes to this stuff. But at the moment, I think it's all hype.
Yeah, guys,
Prosper.
What I'm going to ask you to do, Prosper, if it's a quick question, awesome, because we've got to keep to a bit of time, because I know some people have got bookings straight after today's session. Is it a quick question, Prosper?
I wanted to chime in on the Chat GPT.
Aha. Can you do me a little favor?
Yeah.
Can we do this towards the end of the presentation?
Okay. Yeah.
Because ChatGPT could take up this whole session. Right? We all know that.
I'm just going to finish really quickly. I've got two little slides so I'm going to finish on. So one, if you want to get in touch with me, just jot that down or take a screenshot and then just book a quick session, or everyone's got that. Otherwise, just find me on LinkedIn, right? And just grab your phones. Failing that, Google my name and 8 of the top 10 hits will be me. I'm not the actor.
Not the actor. What I will say is that there is a question from Tams, and what we might do is hold that towards the end of the presentation, because I'm mindful of time.
I'm just going to finish. I'm just going to quickly cover on David's, just very, very briefly. So 10 seconds. So the thing about ChatGPT and hype and all this sort of stuff, and this is my point, is that these are all great technologies and everything's cool. For some people, they've got it and it makes sense. For others, it doesn't make sense. Don't be fearful of it. Use it as an opportunity to go back into your business and have a look at all the little things you go and solve that might not necessarily require this advanced computer thing over in the thing. So don't be fearful and think, I have to be on this bandwagon. You've got so much more opportunity with the stuff you already have. You just need to look into it and look at what you do and solve those 1,000 paper cuts.
Fantastic.
I'm done.
Andy, give Andy a nice round of applause. What we're going to do is we're going to move into some breakout rooms, because these Zoom sessions have a little bit of networking opportunity. And the way we do it is we're going to put you in groups of 5 or 6. What I'd like you to do is in that room, just say good day to whoever's in the room. And also maybe what was the most pointy thing that Andy mentioned? What's the most pertinent thing to you? So we're going to give you 5 minutes in those breakout rooms. Please feel free to network, introduce yourself to some people, and we'll see you back in 5. So on the count of 3, Ryan's going to put up some breakout rooms. You might have to click the join button to get in there, and we'll see you back in 5. Goodness, that went quick. Welcome back, everybody. That opened a can of worms. Andy, Prosser, where were you?
Yeah, I'm here, mate.
You had to bring up ChatGPT, didn't you?
I did. It's the elephant in the room. So unfortunately I got dropped into the room. I think everyone decided to take a break. So I jumped out and I jumped in with Prosper. And I know Prosper's, maybe he's the next person you need to get in to talk about, what this thing could do. Because
he's itching to tell us. So
look, he's literally look, I think we can just see the top of his head. That's how deep he's in this rabbit hole. Look, and seriously, it is a fantastic tool. We haven't even seen its potential yet.
So we need to keep this in mind. As I mentioned in our room, it can potentially be a distraction for a lot of people in business. I always find I look at technology and I evaluate it based on where I'm going with my business. Is it going to take me there? Yes or no? The quicker I answer that question, the quicker I can move on. Our next presenter is really interesting to me. So we've got Delia, who hopefully, there she is right on my screen. Delia McKenzie, who works with Integrate, and they're a great outsourcing company. They've been doing this for many, many years. And I've had good and bad experiences. And I'm curious as to who else on this call has had mixed experiences with outsourcing. Can I just get a quick show of hands for those people? Yep, I know Andy's got his hand up. There's a couple of people. Here's what's happened. COVID and a couple of other economic climate things have forced our hand in working with people from home, with working with people remotely. And I think outsourcing is a solid pillar for a business owner who's looking to leverage their time. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Delia and get her to talk a bit about how offshoring can help your business thrive in today's economy. Over to you, Delia. You'll need to unmute.
Thank you very much, David. Lovely to see everybody here. Thank you, Susie, Ian. I can see lots of familiar faces. Thanks for joining us today. And please, yes, during the presentation, use the chat for questions. And if I can, we'll answer them at the end. Otherwise, I'll certainly, reach out to you after the presentation. I think at the moment, we can all agree that it's really hard to find good people in Australia. Staffing is one of the biggest issues that businesses across many industries are facing. So my name is Delia McKenzie, and I work with Integrate Offshore Solutions. And my purpose and sort of mission is really to help businesses minimize the cost of wages whilst maintaining or actually improving their excellent level of service. So I'll just say that again, it's all about minimizing the cost of wages whilst maintaining or improving their level of service. I'm South African, as you can maybe hear from my slightly dodgy accent. I grew up in South Africa and studied accounting, and I was actually lucky enough to work there for a while before moving to the UK. But in South Africa, there's a huge unemployment. It's sort of over 32%. So more than a quarter of the people there can't find good jobs or work at all. And I certainly know, we go back quite regularly, and I know people personally who might have a degree or a double degree, but they great capabilities, industry experience, but there just isn't the work available. And we're finding that that's similar in a lot of other countries like South America, the Philippines, India, Nepal. So there's a global workforce out there that we haven't really tapped into. It's a sort of sleeping giant and full of highly motivated people that speak good English and are willing to work for a fraction of the cost. I think here in Australia, we'll all agree as well that it's the reverse problem. We're very lucky. The employment is low, but then for businesses, that causes a problem because there just isn't the supply to fulfill the demand. So my role is to connect good people to each other. We uncover the roles within a business that could be done by somebody else, and then we help them to find the right person and manage them so that offshoring is easy and successful and very cost effective. On this slide, I just wanted to sort of go through some of the things that we're finding in the economy, some of the hindering factors, things that are hindering your economic growth. And the main one is, again, cost. Inflation, as David mentioned right at the beginning, we've had sort of a turmoil of economic change, and inflation has been one of the things that have come off the back of COVID, which has caused costs across your home, anything at home costs, and all your business costs to severely escalate. And one of the main costs in any business is their cost of staff. A number of people who come to us speak to us because they have tried to employ onshore and they thought they'd probably found somebody good, but then a week or 2 weeks before the person's due to start, they get a phone call saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take your role because I've been given a $20,000 bonus somewhere else, or, $20,000 extra pay. So that cost of finding staff is a really significant factor in the economy at the moment that is stopping businesses being able to grow. And it's the cost, certainly in terms of the staff salary, but it's also the cost of time in reinvesting each time you have to go back and search again and train again, because staff are moving. They get offered a better job, they're offered more money, and they leave. So separate to that is the staff themselves. There's the cost of staffing, but if cost wasn't a problem, where are the resources? And that, I think, is the crux of how things have changed, and how what we're finding in the economy at the moment is there just aren't the staff available. And at most network meetings and business meetings I go to, that staffing comes up as the single biggest struggle, limiting businesses and limiting their ability to grow. Time is another one. If everybody, I know as business owners, if you had all the time in the world, you could do anything, like everything's possible, but there's just so many paths to every business that people are finding they have to work longer and longer hours just to stay afloat and just to get the tasks that they need to do done in order for business to continue. They don't have the capacity to grow the business, to go out and network and generate revenue and talk to their customers and improve customer experience. It's all spent just getting through everything that needs to get done. It's a bit like a duck on the water. It's floating, but it's paddling, paddling, paddling just to float. And there's no ways, no matter how hard that it paddles, it's never going to take off unless it can find its wings. Working harder isn't going to help you actually get to the next level. And from a society perspective as well, we've come to realize that businesses, if they're not sustainable, and if you're working 7 days a week and it's coming at the cost of your own health, your relationships, your personal relationships, and it's not sustainable, it's just not worth it. You have to find a balance where you can maintain your own health, and look after your sort of primary relationships, and have work as work, not all consuming. Although it's not all bad. Some of the things that we've learned in the current economy can actually help businesses grow. And interestingly, COVID's one of those, because pre-COVID, we had the technology to work from home and work remotely, but we were never tested. We were never sort of pushed to try it. So everybody was like, oh, I'm not sure that it's going to work and it's not for me. And there's got all these problems. But COVID actually forced us to work remotely and forced us to change the way that we perceived working remotely. And I think off the back of COVID, we've learned that you can trust your staff, even if they're not in the office. If they are working from home, they can be just as productive as if they're there, you know, in the desk next to you. And then it means if you're working from home, home can be anywhere. You could be logging in from Mentone or Manila. It doesn't matter anymore. We've sort of tested that, you know, it is actually possible to have a successful work setup when you're working remotely. And that was, you know, thanks very much to technology. We were lucky that technology was in a place that we could communicate like this, work online, that they're cloud systems, so that people can have access to what they need, regardless of where they are, sort of from a location perspective. So technology's definitely played a big part, and as Andy was saying, continues to play a big part of how you can move forward within today's economy. And then there's the global workforce. With COVID, lockdown, people and technology, we've sort of opened up the capacity to look into the global market for staffing and realize that it is sustainable to set people up offshore, that they're good people with great work ethic. They're willing to work. It's actually an honor for people in the Philippines and in other countries to work for an international or Australian company, because they earn a great salary. It's a low cost for us here, but for them, it's actually a really good salary in the economy that they're coming from. So I think businesses now who don't look to embrace a global search when they're looking for staff really won't find their wings and won't be able to move forwards with the way that the future of staffing is going with that direction. I'd just like to talk to you now a little bit about offshoring, outsourcing. There are a lot of terms that you might have heard, and it can be quite confusing as to which is the right one and what might be useful to you and your business. So the three main ones are having a VA or virtual assistant, outsourcing, and offshoring. A VA is somebody that you employ directly. There's a pro to having a VA, certainly a number of pros. Firstly, they're contractors and they can work part-time, so they can work just the hours that you want. They come with a laptop and a setup, so you don't have to buy or finance any of that. And they're certainly good at freeing up your time. They take away the tasks that, you know, might be keeping you at your desks. But the cons of having a VA, and things to certainly just keep an eye out for, is because they're contractors and they provide their own IT, there's a negative side to that, in that you don't know what the security is on the device, how it's been set up, who else they work for, who else's information is on their system. So from a security perspective, you don't have much control. You trust that they have antivirus and that it's up to date, but you've actually got no way of checking that. Similarly, you would look at their CV, but you don't really have any way of looking into the history of their employment or their history, so understanding as much as you can about them. and they do sort of low admin, low risk, low reward type roles. So it's a help, but it doesn't really lift you. It sort of just eases the strain at the moment. Outsourcing is when you want a specialist. So an outsourcing company is very specialist in what they do. So the pros there are that they know they have the technology, they have the capabilities to do the role or the process that you're looking for. So if you're a new company, you might outsource doing your website because that's a once-off thing. You want it done really well and you don't want to train staff up to do it yourself. Similarly, you might outsource a process like your payroll, and they've got the capabilities and the skills to get that done. You don't have to train them, and they certainly, again, would free up your time. The cons with outsourcing is that you will deal with the outsourcing company, the project manager, but you won't know who's behind that, like who's actually doing the work, and they might have their own team of onshore or offshore staff, but you don't know who's the wheelhouse behind getting the job done, how that work's done, how those people are looked after. But so really you've got no control of how the work is done, but in this model you're just paying for the end result. You want a website, and if it's a good one and they get it done in a timely manner, that's what you're after. Whereas offshoring, which is our model at Integrate, is slightly different again. With offshoring, you're choosing to have your own person who works for your business and understands everything about your business, how you want to get things done, but they just live offshore. So you maintain control, you train the people, they learn your processes, your procedures, and they do work the way you want it done. It's very cost effective. They work your hours, and and you get a full understanding into their background because you're part of choosing them. So there's a full understanding of their background, previous employment, and you provide their IT, or you work with an offshore partner who provides their IT. We would do that, and that's then set up with a security in place, so that you're very confident about how what the security setup is. I think from that, it's sort of we can share a little bit more about what the role of offshoring in today's economy can be, based mostly on that sort of cost, time, global resource. And the cost, just to give you a realistic idea of what costing offshore is it'll cost, if you think of a role that you would hire somebody onshore, maybe it's an accountant or a marketing executive, and what a level of experience you would want them to have, you would take that salary and it will cost about 30 to 40% of what you would pay here to hire that same person with the same qualifications offshore. So that's sort of a 60 to 70% savings just on the cost of the salary. Then it's always good to consider other costs. For example, you won't need to set up your own office. If you work with an offshore partner, that's their role. They will have an office set up. They will pay for all the office costs. They will provide an HR team. They will look after all the HR admin because they actually employ the staff member and then second them to you. So they provide HR, admin, an operations team, team leaders to help manage the staff, and IT support. So those are a whole range of business functions that attract costs that you are not having to pay for. So offshoring is amazing to remove those costs from you. From the global workforce, just an idea of that. Just in Manila, for example, there are 700,000 graduates a year. So that's 700,000 people coming out of university each year with qualifications. And offshoring's been going for a long time in the Philippines. So you're not just looking at graduates. You might realistically be able to find somebody who's got more than 5 years experience as a tax accountant or as a marketing specialist, or in engineering as a drafting, any role. There are international companies that are there, and people have experience. And then the last one there, I think, is it's really important for you to think about time and where you're focusing, what you're putting your time into. Could you be spending your time in a different way? And an exercise I'd like us to just try and do for a minute or two, if that's okay, is to jot down on a piece of paper, just if you've got one in front of you, a list of things that you do in a day. So what takes up your, what does a day look like for you? What tasks do you have to do in a day? And perhaps if you could even expand this to being over a week, jotting down the tasks that you do, and particularly circling the ones that keep you at your desk. So which tasks stop you from networking, meeting clients, going out, growing your business, doing the parts of the business that you love, which are the process ones. And if you could work out how much of a week that takes up, you'll probably find it's 30 to 40% of your week you are doing low or no income earning tasks that are keeping you at your desk. So just on that side there, the graph sort of would show if you could invest 40% back into your business, that's 2 days back into growing the business, what the effect might be on your bottom line, on your revenue. So even if you don't do this now, it would be a good exercise to take away and do in your own time at home. And lastly, I'd like to show you what successful offshoring looks like. So how you would set up your team offshore. And the first part is to do some research. So choosing an offshore partner is really important because there are a lot out there. It's a minefield of people offering you different things and trying to work out what will work best for you. So anything from sort of just a recruitment company, he'll find you someone and leave it to you, all the way through to what we offer at Integrate, was a fully managed service to support you right from the start and then continue to get the best out of your staff. The second part is taking those tasks that you wrote in the time diary and creating a job description. So who exactly are you looking for offshore, and can we find that person? So creating the job description and finding the right person, because in the end, if you hire onshore or offshore, it's all about finding that person who fits your values, fits with the culture of your business, it's their career. So they really become part of your team and they want to grow and give the best that they can and enjoy their role. Then the next step is the onboarding and setup. So that's setting KPIs, having clear goals for what the role is going to look like, how you're going to manage performance, how you're going to measure performance, and then the IT setup. So again, everybody, and quite rightly, is very conscious of data and cybersecurity. So how is the IT setup that you feel that your client's data is secure and that there's a risk of cybersecurity everywhere, but that there's no more risk offshore as you might have onshore. Then there's the ongoing management and coaching. So again, getting the best out of your staff so that they can deliver great results to your company, but also at the end, caring for your staff. That's the most important thing, looking after them and, remembering their birthdays. It's not having someone who sits in another country who nobody really knows who they are. They just perform a task. They're your team. And the more you embrace them as part of your team, coach them as you would somebody onshore, and then have the support from your offshore partner is really important for the engagement activities and recognition and reward and making sure they've got private health insurance and things in place so that they feel cared for and supported. And this is a slide I just wanted to share because it's a great visual of what good offshoring looks like. In the middle at the bottom there is Trent, who's an accountant, and he's got a team offshore, and this is them sort of logging on to their morning meeting or their team meeting, and they're all engaged, they all know each other and work really well together. And I think it's the technology that allows this to happen. It actually means that people can be really productive from anywhere in the world. And, he was he understood Trent from an onshore person, understood their culture. He'd done cultural training, which we definitely provide as part of onboarding, to understand how the Filipinos work. And similarly, they do cultural training to understand Australia. And they have a very, successful relationship with a good rhythm of how work moves between onshore and offshore. So a good process of who's responsible for what and how the information will flow. So lastly, I think just, I think I'm about on time, hopefully. Just wanted to sort of, as takeaways for you today, if you would like to look at saving 70% on your cost of employment or improving your revenue by 30 to 40%, I'd love to have a conversation with you outside of this event, because everybody's business is different and everybody will be looking for a different job description and might not be sure if it's possible to find what they're looking for. So my details are there in the bottom right. But if you're sort of a step back from that and maybe not quite ready to have a chat just at the moment, and you'd like to get a copy of our book, Is Offshoring Right for Us? It was written by Adam Conrad, who I work very closely with. He lives just here in Carnegie, and he's the founder and CEO of Integrate, and wrote the book to sort of uncover the myths and unpack some of the questions that businesses who are new to offshoring, questions they might have, just to sort of get them thinking about what's possible and answer some of the doubts, fears, and concerns that they might have. So if you just scan the code on the side there, and you can just enter your details, and we will send a book through to you.
Fantastic, Delia.
That's all from me.
Your timing is impeccable. What I'd like to do is, first of all, let's give Delia a nice round of applause for an awesome presentation and amazing timing. What we'd like to do is we're going to drop into a breakout room just for a couple of minutes, just to debrief on what you picked up from Delia. Okay. Now, I didn't mention earlier, anyone who's got any questions of the presenters, feel free to pop them into the chat as of now. I'm going to do a short presentation that's going to really talk about using planning cycles to ride the economic wave. And as I finish that, then we're going to pull all the presenters up to the front so they can answer any of your questions. I'm hoping that you've got some good value out of today so far. Can I get a sort of indication? Thumbs up if it's been useful? Thumb sideways if it's okay, and thumbs down if I really shouldn't be here. I've got something else to do. There's always a few. So what I'd like to talk about briefly, and really, it's horses for courses. What we're presenting to you today is ideas on how to take advantage of the current economy. As we hear about things like interest rates going up, wages going up, scarcity of resources, it just means that things like going offshore are more cost-effective ways of doing some things. It's not for everybody. But what I'd like to talk about today is this whole idea of using planning cycles to ride the economic wave. Now, I've been running our Outcomes Business Group now for pretty much 23 years. 23 years we've been running this business. And our job has really been simple. Our purpose in life is to help people. How do I get an offshore truck driver? It's coming, don't worry. They are remote trucks, and offshore truck drivers will be coming when AI kicks in, but we won't talk about ChatGPT today. So let's talk a bit about how this all looks. This is an economic cycle. This is pretty standard. I stole this from the internet. So yes, it's been plagiarized, but I could have drawn it. All it shows us is that the economy goes up and down, and it's consistent. It's going to have peaks, it's going to have recessions, it's going to have troughs, it's going to have peaks. So growth, it's a cycle. And here's what I've learned: when things are cyclic, we can actually predict the future, which is pretty exciting. And when we know how to predict the future, we can start hedging our bets either way. Now, the thing I find, though, is whenever I get home, and if the news happens to be on, which I don't know about you, but I can't stand watching the news when I get home, because all it tells me is about doom and gloom in the marketplace and how everything's going south. I hear the other side too. We sit here sometimes, and can I just get a show of hands for those people who actually profited from COVID, who actually did a really good job of making money out of COVID? It's interesting, right? Now, when I meet people who say we have had a better run in business in the last 3 years than ever before, some of them think it was because of them, right? Some of them think it's because they're really savvy business people and they really knew what they were doing. But here's the truth of the matter. For the majority of people, it was the tide, right? They just happened to be in the right business at the right time, and they couldn't predict what was going to happen, but now they're making lots of money. Now, if that was you, be careful, because when things turn around, you're going to not have any control over what goes on. So I'm not saying it's not great that you made money during that time. I'm saying stick it in a bank account and realize that it was because of the economy and not you. Because when things go south, you need that money. Now, some of us had some COVID payments sitting in the bank account, and that carried us for a few extra months or a few extra years. But what I did realize is the economy is going to go up and down, almost guaranteed all the time. The business owner that actually reads the play and anticipates what's coming and jumps in front of the wave will ride it. But if I'm too busy in the engine room doing the work of my business, and then all of a sudden I hear about stuff and I sort of become a result, I become a consequence of what's going on, this is really bad news for business. Now, what I want to talk about today is, first of all, attitude, and I'm going to spend about 30 seconds on attitude because I think it's so critical. There's two types of people that I meet in business. The first type of people will give me all of the reasons why they're not going well in business. They'll give me all the justifications about how tough it is out there. They'll tell me that the economy is killing their business. And they'll say, once the economy gets better, or once people are available to work again, I'll be good, right? And then we've got people who live up here and they get results. Now, the simple distinction for me is the person who is looking for results will adapt to a marketplace. They will change their strategy to take advantage of what's going on right now. I love it when interest rates go up. I love it when the market becomes scarce in a particular field, because for a lot of people, that's enough to throw them off their game. So how do I get to love these things, right? Because what I do is I realize they're cyclic. I realize they're going to come and they're going to go. And I realize that some people aren't prepared for this. Now, unfortunately, when you are in business, you have competitors. And when competitors are doing better than you, then you start losing the game of business. So the trick is, how do I keep up with my competitors? How do I become unique in my marketplace? How do I then create a message that everyone wants to listen to right now? So I want to talk a bit about this whole idea of what we built internally called the Business Accelerator Plan. And what I found is, for most people in business, their level of planning is minimal at best. Can I just get a show of hands of those people who've got a current business plan? Okay, about half of the room, right? And some of the people we know. How many people know they need to have a current business plan and don't have one right now? Yeah. Here's the secret, right? If you do not have a plan and you do not have a guide, and it's not the plan that's important, it's actually the planning that's important. And most people don't realize the distinction here. Yeah, writing a business plan and printing it and sticking it on the desk in front of you is a really important thing to do. But as soon as you print it, it's redundant. Who knows what I mean about this? Right? From the minute it's printed, as soon as the news announces increases in interest rates, what is in your plan may not reflect what's going on in the economy. So the thing that I learned with the Business Accelerator Plan methodology is that there's a process that we need to follow. And I'm just going to quickly outline the steps, because to me, there's 3 elements that I want to talk about today. And I'm just going to give you my summary version of this because of time constraints. The first thing that any business owner needs to do, and what Andy has been talking about today and what Delia has been talking about, is how do I gain my time back? How do I use technology to improve my efficiency? How do I find people to take the jobs off my plate that are not the best use of my time? I call that moving from chaos to control. Chaos to control, okay? And for those who remember Maxwell Smart, Secret Agent 86, he was in control, he wasn't in chaos, right? And Siegfried was in chaos. But in business, what chaos looks like is I'm running around in circles, chasing my tail, never getting to move forward. I feel like I'm running on a treadmill. And there's 4 elements that I have found that cause people to get stuck. The very first one is this whole idea of planning. Now, you'll notice I didn't say plan, I said planning. One of the things, and we do this now internally for our clients, is we moved from doing 90-day plans to doing 6-week plans, right? We do plans that last 6 weeks. And the reason we use 6-week cycles is because the economy moves too quickly for a plan to be valid for a 12-month cycle or even a 90-day cycle. Because we found with our 90-day planning, what people were doing is they'd come to a planning workshop with us, they'd write their plan, and about halfway through it, they've lost interest in the plan, they've lost focus in the plan, they don't use the plan anymore. Is anyone in the building industry? Can I get a show of hands of those people who are in or related to the building industry? Here's my question, right? How often does a builder look at the plan of a house when they're building it? Okay. Now, I don't need you to answer me because I know the answer is every time they're about to cut something, which is pretty much every single day, right? A builder of a house will look at the plan of the house every day before they start working on that building. My question to you as a business owner is, how often are you looking at your business plan? Now, for those who don't have one, I know the answer, right? It's a blank page. For those who do have one, if you're not looking at your business plan at least once a week, at the start of the week, and saying, where am I at in my business plan and what should I be working on this week? Chances are you're pressure prompted and you're working on activities within the business and not working on building your business. So this is the ready reckoner for me. When we talk about planning, I'm not talking about just having a business plan. I'm talking about having a planning cycle. Now, for us, we do 6-week cycles and we have a 2-week break. So we do 8-week planning cycles, which is every 2 months. And the reason we do it is you get your 5-year vision, you bring it to the planning workshop, you work out what to work on next, you create the top 1 or 2 things that you need to focus on, and you get them done. Then we reassess the whole plan, a bit like the GPS in your car. It recalculates if you take the wrong turn at the end of the street, right? So the plan has to be reassessed after you've moved forward. Because one of the traps with planning is that when I write a plan and then I learn things, my knowledge increases, but the plan hasn't changed. And that's why we use planning cycles. So the first step to getting out of chaos is to have a planning methodology, which is something that's running on a regular basis. The second one is to learn how to become a lot more productive. Now, the two presenters that we just talked about how to free up your time. I will tell you, and I put it in the comments as well in the chat box, that time is your most valuable asset, right? The most valuable asset you have on this planet is your time. And anything you can do to trade your time and get someone else to do the things that you shouldn't be doing, which is $5 an hour, $10 an hour, and $20 an hour work, the more you can get that off your plate, the more productive you'll be, the more profitable you'll be, and the happier you'll be. One of the hardest things that we struggle with is delegation, finding the right people, getting them to do the job the way that we want it done. But if you master this one simple art of delegation, you will grow as a person and you will grow as a business. The third piece of this puzzle is not so obvious, but it's really about understanding your numbers. Now, the reason I put numbers in here is because understanding your numbers is how you can tell if your business is going in the right direction. The numbers do not lie. Numbers don't lie. And if I have the right numbers in my business, now I'm talking about two kinds of numbers. One is results, which is revenue and profitability. And the other one is what we call leading indicators, which is activity-driven numbers. How many leads, how many appointments, how many proposals, how many sales presentations, how many things am I doing, or how many things are my team doing to be able to grow the business. So that's number 3. Number 4, and the last one in here, is what we call, I love this one, I've renamed it to client experience, or CLIX, client experience. Now, Andy touched on client experience, and he said one thing that was really important to me, and it resonated with me a lot, is that people's expectation of doing business with you is instant these days. When they go to your website, they don't want to call a number, leave a message, and wait for you to call back in 24 hours. They want to be able to speak to someone immediately on chat or book a time with a consultant straight away. So if we think about client experience within your business right now, it's not that are you delivering a good client experience? Are you exceeding their expectation? Are you creating an awesome experience for your clients? Because creating an awesome experience for your clients will do 2 things, right? The first thing, it'll keep them as a client, but the second thing it'll do is it'll act as a referral mechanism for your business. Exceptional client experiences create word of mouth marketing. So we need to work on these 4 things: planning, being productive with our time, understanding our numbers in our business, and making sure that our client experience is exceptional before we start growing the business. So to me, chaos to control is about getting our business back into control so that we can grow it. Because the last thing you need to do in your business is to grow a business that's in chaos. Who's in chaos right now? Can I just get a quick show of hands for those people who feel they're in chaos? Don't grow your business when you're in chaos, because you're just growing the chaos. Right? And if you're stressed right now and you grow it, you just become more stressed. My suggestion is you streamline. You learn how to get back to control, slow things down, work out what to systemize, and then we move into the next stage. The next stage is growth. Now, I'll suggest growth has 3 elements to it. And the first one, which most people will expect or should expect, is that to grow a business, you need to market. You need to market your business to grow it. Now, let me explain this very briefly. Who's too busy right now? Who's already out of control busy in their business? Okay, so for those people who are too busy right now, marketing looks like it's not a thing I should be doing. But the reason we market our business is not just to generate new business. There's a second reason we market our business, and that is to actually be able to differentiate from our competitor so we can charge more. And actually, there's a third reason, and that's to attract employees. So for those guys looking for truck drivers, there are truck drivers out there, right? They're just not working for you right now, and they're probably not looking for work. So the question is, why would they want to change jobs? And the only way they're ever going to know you exist is if you are present in the market. So marketing to me is not just about getting new clients, it's about being able to differentiate your company and make sure that you attract the right kind of people. That's the first step to growth. So marketing. Okay. The second step to growth, and Delia touched on this really well, is to create business systems. Right, start by identifying the things that you shouldn't be doing within your business right now. Start to work out who can take those roles away from you. Anything that can be systemized by computer is super effective. Anything that can be outsourced to either an individual locally or offshore doesn't matter. But if it's something that's worth less per hour than you are, you should not be doing it. But you can't delegate it unless you can systemize it first, because the last step to growth is actually finding the right people to be on your team. Now, you'll notice there's a bit of a thread in what I'm saying for you today. A lot of people I meet are self-employed. Who's in the self-employed market right now? Can I just get a quick show of those hands who are self-employed? Okay. So here's what self-employment is. Self-employment is a job. And it's okay. Sometimes it's a very well-paying job, and other times it's a very risky job because you only get paid when there's money in the bank. The transition from self-employed to business owner is one of the hardest transitions you'll ever make. But you have to decide if that's what you want or not. Because if you're self-employed and you're doing all right and you're happy with what you got, keep it. But if you're self-employed and you think it's a business that you're running, but if you're not there, it doesn't make money, you have a high-risk job, a high-risk job. And so when you recognize it for what it is, then you can decide what you need to do next. And this is part of the planning process. So I'm sort of touching on a lot of things, and I'm also super mindful of time today. But what I really wanted to do was give you a sense of what a plan needs to look like and what you should be looking at in your business every 8 weeks. Every 8 weeks, you as a business owner need to assess yourself on each one of these areas and give yourself a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm not going to ask you to do it right now. I'm just going to ask you to think about, is it planning that I need? Is it being productive that I need? Is it the numbers that I need? Is it my client experience? So out of those 7 things that I put up on the chart right now, I want you to pick one. I want you to pick one, which is the one that you would choose to work on over the next 6 weeks. Into the chat box, I'd like you to tell me which one it is for you. Just one. You're not allowed to have 2, only one. Which one will it be? I'm going to wait till I see at least one in the chat box. Here we go. For David, it's marketing systems, marketing, business systems, numbers. Awesome. See, what we've done today is literally given you a smorgasbord of 7 things to choose from, and I've forced you to pick one. Now, if I said to you that one thing that you've chosen, you need to work out exactly what can you accomplish in the next 6 weeks to make a difference in that space. So it's not like create a marketing system that's going to produce all my leads. The question is, in 6 weeks, what could you possibly build to solve part of that problem? This would be the planning mechanism that I would recommend to you, okay? Because we live in a world of noise, right? There's too much going on all the time to distract us. And when we work on the one next thing that actually helps us grow our business and get that done within 6 weeks, we can take one step forward. Because sometimes people forget the journey of 1,000 steps begins with a single step. And for me, when it comes to business planning, it's not about telling you how to build a business. It's about telling you, getting you to focus on your priority. Now, there's 2 things that I'm going to give you as homework today. So the first one we've done is identify an area that you need to resolve your business. You need to work on to grow the business. The second thing is I want you to jot this question down. And this comes back to step number 1, which is the planning process. See, I don't believe that you can create a plan for your business unless you know what you're building. So the question I need you to answer is, what will my business look like when it's finished? What will my business look like when it's finished? Now, I know it's a weird question, okay? Because some people are going, what do you mean finished? I've got plenty of years left in me. But here's what I'm going to suggest to you. If I go to a builder and say, build me a house, and he says, yep, no problem. How many stories do you want? And I say, don't worry, just start. He's going to look at me like I'm mad, okay? If I go to a business owner and say, well, what sort of business do you want to build? And they say, I don't know, just get me some clients. It's the same story, right? So finished for your business could be one of probably 3 things, right? 80% of businesses in Australia will finish when they close the doors and sell the assets. They literally close the doors. They can't sell the business for what they think it's worth, so they just stop working. If you're self-employed, that might be your option, and that's okay, right? Out of the remaining 20%, 2 things will happen. One will be that they sell it. And if you're thinking to sell your business, you need to give me the answer to how much you want to sell it for and when you want to sell it. How much and when. And the third one is that you keep it and you run it under management, which means you sell it to yourself, right? But all of those three options are beyond you, okay? So it's a business that either runs without you or closes its doors because you're not there. You get to choose your own adventure in business, but for most people, they don't sit down and think this one through, okay? So if you do one thing out of today's presentation, it's answering the question, what will my business look like when it's finished? And in your answer, I need some dates and numbers. And for most people, they go, I'm going to sell it for $1 million. Where'd you get that number? Well, that's how much I need to pay my mortgage. That's not how we do this, right? Because what you need to think about is a realistic number and a realistic time frame. And it's fine if you stretch, but if you're not clear on what you're building, there's no possible way to build it. And this is the message that I want to send you today. We live in a world where the economy is changing quickly. The way to navigate it is to have shorter planning cycles. Now, planning cycles doesn't mean changing the end game. Planning cycles means changing whether I turn left or right at the end of the street. We all know how a GPS works in our car, right? You put the destination in and it tells you to turn left. If you turn right by accident, Susie, I know you're in the car, it'll recalculate for you and it'll say, hey, you turned right instead of left. That's okay. I will recalculate. That's what your planning process does. It recalculates your direction based on where you are right now, assuming you're going to the same destination. Now, I'm very mindful of time. It's 10:25, and I am going to make sure that we finish with plenty of time. We're going to answer a few questions. But what I do want to do just quickly is we run a planning cycle for our clients. It's internal. For those people who are clients, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Growth Planning System Workshop. Our next one of these is coming up at the end of this month. And for the people who are on this call, I'd love to invite you to experience our growth planning workshop for yourself. So if you're interested, there's no cost to come as a visitor, right? You can come to our planning workshop. You can see what our clients get every 8 weeks in terms of their planning cycle. This particular one, we're going to be talking about communication and how to improve it. We have 3 keynote speakers that are going to be talking about improving your communication methodology within your business. One's going to be talking about how to get on more stages so that you can present yourself. One's going to be talking about how to write emails so that you can keep in communication with your prospects, not you prospect, but prospects. And the third one is going to be talking about how we use models to communicate, how to use little things like the ladder that I use to show you how we do business planning, but how do you draw your business on the back of a napkin? So they're the 3 keynotes that we're going to be having in our next planning cycle. If you're interested in attending, all you need to do is register your interest online. There's a link, Ryan, I'll just get you to put that in again, if you could, please. The link to the workshop. If you register your interest there, what will happen is Kelly, who works in our office as our practice manager, will give you a quick buzz and ascertain what you're looking for and make sure that there's a fit between our planning workshop and where you are within your business. It's just a simple mechanism to actually make sure that you're going to get the most out of it. But our job is simple. If I can help you grow your business, I'm doing my job. If we helped you get some more information that's going to help you make better decisions today, then we've done our job this morning. I'm going to open the chat box to questions, and I'm going to see, Ryan, can you just co-spotlight the other 2 presenters with me? We've got about 3 minutes left, and I just want to see if there's any other questions out of today's presentation, or if there is, into the chat box. I know there was one that came up really early from Tamsin. Are you still here, Tamsin? Yeah, did you just quickly unmute yourself? I know you had a question about what to systemize. Can you just reiterate? It's disappeared off my screen.
Oh, that's right. I am drowning in admin, basically, which you know, David.
Yes.
And I suppose I'm not, so we don't have an actual office. So I'm looking for a virtual person or a person out of my office.
Yeah.
And I suppose I don't know where to start in terms of centralizing everything. So if they're not here, how do they access emails, or how do I see what emails they're receiving? How do they get access to the files, like our employee files, all that sort of stuff? So I suppose in my head, that's probably the biggest thing that I'm sort of procrastinating about, and I just don't know where to start.
Okay. I'm going to suggest that you contact Andy straight after the show. We're not going to answer it in 2 minutes, but what you just described.
I can just say one thing. Yes, it is a tech problem. There's lots of different techniques depending on which systems you're using to make that easy and visible, so you can oversight. Literally do this every single day with my clients.
Okay.
So
Amelia knows the other side of it in terms of the people problems.
Yeah. Both those guys will actually answer your question, because what you've just described is the perfect scenario for what today was about.
Yes.
Because I think most people just drown in work because it's easier to do it yourself than it is to try and work out how to give it to someone else. And you know, there's an old saying: if you want a job done properly,
Give it to the busiest person.
yeah, learn how to delegate it so that you don't have to do it anymore. And the real issue is it's quite difficult, because we're talking about technology, we're talking about risk, and we're talking about your business. So if you're used to doing everything in paper in front of you, and now we have to offshore or outsource, it's like, how do I trust these people? How do I know it's going to happen? But to me, what you've got, the problem you have, if you solve, will allow the business to scale, because it becomes a constraint. Okay, it's the anchor that's holding you back. And when you work out, so working on the business is working out, how do I systemize this? How do I work out a way that's going to work for me?
I think the biggest thing, and you sort of touched on it, David, is learning how to go from that self-employed to business owner. And the biggest trick is learning to let go.
Thanks.
I think also what you're saying is having processes in place. So whether it's automated processes or processes that you can send to somebody offshore, so many business owners have these all in their heads, but they're not documented and they're not systemized in any way, which certainly Andy could help you with. But even if you start recording what you do in your day, like on a loom, and then you can start to create a process and a document that kind of becomes your IT and your business blueprint, then whether you're doing it or you're training someone onshore or offshore, it's just so much easier to refer back to, instead of feeling like I'm just winging it every day and doing it maybe a slightly different way. It just becomes something that you can work on and refine, and you know, use it to train wherever you hire staff.
Yeah, and that touches on just one little quick thing around systemization. Systemization is about both tech and it's about the documentation stuff. And the only bad system guide is one that's stuck in your head.
It's in your head. You can't have it in your head. That's
Everything else, doesn't matter how crap, how shit, how bad it looks, from video, from images, to just dot points on that's photocopied off one of these things, is better than being stuck in this thing.
Yeah, awesome. Very mindful of time for everyone else on the call. What I might do is, let's do this. In 1 or 2 words, what was the most valuable thing you got from today's session? Let's just post that into the chat box. What's been most valuable out of this 90 minutes we've invested together? What's the one thing that stuck with you? What's the one thing that resonated? What are you excited about? Let's see if we can get something into the chat box about what did you get out of today's session. Ideas? 1,000 paper cuts. I love that analogy, but I think the first one still hurts. It made me think about my system, saving time, importance of good systems to be efficient and using time more effectively. A printed business plan is useless. Yeah, it should be a live document. Absolutely. Recognizing there's a better way of spending my time. 100% right, Andy. How do we let it go? Brilliant. Need to spend time to save time. Yes. The trick is often people in business are too busy on the tools. They're working in the business, they're doing the admin, they're doing the work, they're managing the people. They're not thinking about how do I actually get it out of my head and into a document. So delegate. Thank you. Need to spend time to save time. Yeah, we read that one already. Guys, it's 10:32. I hope you got some great value out of today. I know that you guys that hung around obviously saw a reason to hang around, which is awesome. So I appreciate your attention. If you would like to chase down any of these people, you can either email us back on the emails that you've been getting to confirm the event, or you can just Google Andy Prosser or Delia McKenzie. And if you Google Delia, you'll find that her son is a very famous football player, or to be a famous football player this year. I'm glad that you stayed through. I'm glad you got some great value out of it. And I look forward to catching up with you guys again in the future. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you
Thank
enjoyed.
you all very much. Thank you.
Delia.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye.
Thanks, David.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.